Canadian government is what I'm going to be explaining in this video. I'm going to be describing not only what our government is and how it functions, but who's in it and what they do. The type of government we have here in Canada is called a representative government, which basically means the people of the country get a choice to choose on who they want to make the decisions. Our government is like a tree, because it has branches. At the very top of the tree, we have our monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. But since our lovely queen isn't actually in Canada, she has a Governor General, which acts in her place. Under the Governor General, we have the Executive Branch, which runs the government. At the top of the Executive Branch, we have our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Some of the jobs our Prime Minister does is to choose who is in Cabinet, appoint the Senate, and to appoint the Governor General. Well, he sort of appoints the Governor General. The Prime Minister does the work to find out who a good Governor General would be, and then once the Prime Minister finds the right person, he tells the Queen to pick the person he decided on, which is honestly kind of ridiculous, but at least it's better than having these people as our candidates.
Oh, look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? You know what I'm talking about?
Under the Prime Minister, we have our Cabinet. These are the guys who control public policy and are responsible for leading all of us. The next branch is called the Legislative Branch. They're the ones that make the laws of our country. First up, we have the House of Commons. There are 338 members of the House of Commons. They are elected by Canadian citizens. The House of Commons is where laws begin and start to be formed. Next, we have the Senate, and they are appointed by the Prime Minister. It is the Senate's job to study bills passed down from the House of Commons. They decide if it should pass or not. The Senate may also make their own bills. And last but not least, we have the civil service, and they're the people who do the everyday work. Now, before we move on to the last branch, I'm going to talk about how laws are actually made. So the first step is for them to create what's called a bill. A bill is the name for a new law before it actually becomes a new law. The bill is written up and then gets printed out to be discussed. The second step is for the House of Commons to debate whether or not the bill is good. Some factors they might discuss is it beneficial to the people? Or is the idea behind the bill good? If they decide the bill is good, they pass the bill on to a smaller committee. The third step is for this bill to be studied with great detail. The House of Commons will ask people in government and outside of government for comments about the law. They may also discuss changes to the bill. The fourth step is for the committee to send the bill back to the House in which everyone can debate on it. The fifth step is for a final reading of the bill in case someone has changed their mind about the bill. Once the bill is passed, they send it to the Senate, in which the bill goes through a very similar process. The final step is when both the Senate and the House of Commons agree on the bill, and then they send it to the Governor General for what's called a royal assent. The Governor General approves of the bill and it becomes a law. Now let's move on to the final branch, the Judicial Branch. These are the people who interpret the law. In the Judicial Branch, we have the Supreme Court of Canada. The Supreme Court of Canada is essentially where all cases go as a final resort and need a definitive verdict. The Provincial Court is where you go if you are charged with criminal code offenses. It also deals with family and youth matters, along with civil claims. Now that we've discussed all of who is in government, now we can move on to how people are elected. So the first thing you have to know is that there are all of these parties. This is important because if you are a Canadian citizen over the age of 18, then you are the one voting on who is in your government. There are 338 seats available for a representative of each of the parties to sit on, and you vote out of all the representatives in your riding. If a party gets more than 50% plus one of the seats, then they will become the majority government. It may sound confusing, but basically depending on where you're living, you'll have a representative from each party to vote on, and whichever person gets the most votes from your riding, they earn a seat in the House of Commons. The same process happens in all of the ridings. But let's say a party doesn't win 50% of the seats. Then a minority government would form, with parties forming an alliance to make a coalition. For a new election to start, the Governor General can dissolve Parliament, in which a new election is called. And yeah, that's how Canadian government works. I hope you all learned something new from this video, and I'd like to thank you for paying attention for this long. I'll see you all later.